Now, so in high school, so you kind of talk about you went to high school, you had some of these coaches that were
Yep.
a big impact to you. Um, you know, you've been through a lot of stuff. Like
Yeah.
as I was doing research on you, I'm like, man, like I hear I'm reading these stories that, like one
Yeah.
after another,
Yeah.
and whether it be your high school coach passing away when
Yep.
in high school, you losing a best friend in a
Yep.
car accident, um, having a heart
Heart
attack,
attack. Yeah.
while you're
Yeah.
playing pro ball after you like were you MVP or All
Yeah.
Star? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, um, but it always seems like you come out on the other end of this, of
Yeah.
every single instance, all these tragedies that probably would break a lot of people,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. Like, what gives you that ability? Is there something that has given you that ability to come on the other side of all these different
Yeah.
instances?
Yeah, I honestly can't like put my finger on like why. And at times, it's like you kind of get like upset or a little bit angry of like why all this has happened to me. Someone asked me like what, characteristics do you bring or what's like your strongest? And I'm like, oh geez, sometimes it's tough for me to get like all deep on this, but like, like the coping aspect, right? And that's really like unique is like what do you have to cope with, right? Like what's on your plate that you just have to deal with. And sometimes you can be like really successful, like your parents are really successful, right? And you have to like cope with that, right? You're different. So I think the coping aspect or the coping characteristic is pretty unique and not like talked about a lot. Like coping with like being short, right? Like you talked to Dustin Pedroia, like this dude had to cope with it from Jump Street, and he gave zero craps about it, right? He didn't. I mean, that's just the hand he was dealt. Talk about like this guy just had to hit like the high fastball. Why? Because they're all high when you're short, right? If you think about it. But the coping aspect, and I mean, can you like cope with not having an elite fastball, right? Can you cope with like not being fast and figuring out like different ways to adjust and to succeed and go to the next level? But I mean, coping with not having a lot of money and being homeless at the time, coping with losing your varsity coach, coping with being in a fatality car accident and losing your best friend, coping with like having a heart attack. And it's just like, geez, I mean, you tell these stories and some other people want to cry when I didn't even like cry. It was just it was a tough ride. But like I mentioned, man, it was the hand I was dealt, and now I think in the position I'm in now and the platform I am now to like give back some of these like coping characteristics that I had at times for the next generation.
And I think back, and I just kind of just hit me, but as you're going through these things, it's almost like, again, I mean, if I don't know if you believe in God or anything like that, but like God put you through these experiences, and I think of the experience when you were with the Red Sox
Yeah.
in 2013.
Yeah.
What happened in Boston,
Yeah.
and you had already been prepared. You've been preparing your entire life
Right.
to help be a leader, and that's what you ended up being in that moment when a city and like it could be building you up for this one moment
Yeah.
to help a team cope
Yeah.
with something that was no one could fathom.
So yeah, man. So that was real interesting. I mean, after the Boston Marathon bombing, the 4 people passed away. I mean, it was a bloodbath like downtown. And when you go through like someone passing away or someone, in your life, out of your life, or a big, catastrophic, event like that, you learn real quick that people like grieve differently, right? Like you don't have to have your head in the sand to show that you care, right? Like you don't have to go to bed like crying every night. Because there's a couple people that had their shoulders back and their heads up still, even though that happened. And there has to be a leader. There has to be like an alpha in the room. And I wasn't like, like, hey, I'm not going to have my head. Like, I've dealt with this. I've dealt with, there's a lot of people that, are of age, 30, 34, that haven't had someone close in their life pass away, which is fine. Haven't had financial problems, which is fine. Haven't had health problems. And I was like, I got this, like jump on my back. We're going to rally around the city. We don't want the city to rally around us. So that's where that 617 jersey came, to rally around them. We got to honor these people every single night to where it's exhausting. And then during that, if people forget that the Bruins went to the Stanley Cup and they went to like Game 7, and everybody was like, wow, this is just an absolute Cinderella story of the Boston Marathon, and then they're going to win the Stanley Cup, and they lost. And then you find out real quick that sports does not care what you got going on. They do not care about what motivates you. It's whoever scores more points than the other team's going to win. So, there's the David Ortiz speech right when we got back, and everyone's like, was that like the rallying point? And I'll go back to like that rallying point was when the Bruins lost in the Stanley Cup. Really? And I mean, everybody was like, oh, we're almost there. We're almost there. The Band-Aid is almost on, and they lose. And it's like, that was not supposed to happen. And then I remember we came to the clubhouse the next day, kind of unsaid, but like, holy cow, we got a lot on our backs now. I mean, everyone was so close to like being healed, right? And the Band-Aid just got ripped right off. I think that was a big driving force for the Red Sox 2013, was watching the Bruins lose and then just having everyone jump on our back. Outside of the fact of we were good. We were really good. We didn't need that, but it sure helped.
Yeah, for sure. Would you say life experience builds resilience or just reveals it?
Yeah, I think it reveals it. Like the whole genetic side of things, I think like success and money and failure just make you more of the person you are. Right? I don't think it changes you much. I think there's not many opportunities where resilience and success and money are able to get some of these characteristics out, right? I mean, there's a lot of really good like philanthropists and really good like, charity workers that don't have the opportunity to give back because they don't have the platform. But I think the more success you have and the more money you make and the bigger your platform just makes you more of the person you are. I think it's already in you. When people talk about like the success and the money like changed him, I don't think it ever changed him, right? It just made him expose more of the person he is.
Right.
And there's some people I know, it's like, geez, this guy, I really hope he doesn't get famous because the people are going to find out real quick that this dude's not it.
Right. Well, a lot of times when you get the money too, you have what they say, you have access to excess.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And depending on how you want to use that,
right.
You'll find out quickly.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right.
If you enjoyed that clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the full podcast, click right here. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you find this content valuable.